All right. Let's move that out of the way. Okay. Excuse me. Oh, we got to restart Unity Hub. Well, hello and welcome. We are back again. So today I am working on Grow a God, or GAG, which is probably the worst name ever, also called Feed the Elder God, or FEG. We'll figure out a name eventually. But it's been a while since I've last live streamed. Lots of things going on. Oh, here we go. But I kind of made myself a promise, if you remember, and that was I'd make a game by the end of the year, and I haven't done that. Unfortunately, life has a way of messing with things. So let's see, take a break from the dark side. You can now choose light or dark themes. No, maybe later. What are we doing? Well, today we are working on Grow a God, or Feed the Elder, which is what is coming up here. So once we begin this project, we're going to begin working on, well, it's been actually close to 2 months since I last opened this project, and I'm going to figure out what exactly it is we're doing as well. Because I don't really know, because we started fleshing out the various gameplay mechanics for this, and this is back when it used to be called Poop something, where you can see here we have feces and going into something. That is not what we're doing today. The game has drastically evolved since then, but it looks like we had a list of to do. So make a hotkey to quit the game. Always keep it dark, correct. Yeah, I don't know anyone who likes light mode. Let's see here. Okay, and I am working on a widescreen monitor today. So I've got safe zones and safe margins set up on my monitor, so I make sure I only put things in the range that people can or cannot see. There we go. So here we go. Perfect. Okay, so last we left off, let's go ahead and hit, what are we doing here? We're in the farming mode of the game. So let's go back to the main scene and launch that really fast and see where I left off. Okay, so we had the different zones. The objects can be spawned. We can grab them with a tentacle. We can fire them off, and then we can shoot things off. It looks like we've got some basic sound effects. You probably can't hear them because I don't have my desktop audio being transmitted. So here we go. And then we've got the other butthole. Oh, we got tons of errors though. Animator errors, all kinds of things. What do we got? There's no animator attached to the food object. So I think the last time I was working, I didn't like the entire concept of how this game works, where it's in 3 different parts. I want this to be more interesting. So what I am going to do is instead go to the farm, and I think I started creating a system where objects would start to spawn randomly at different locations. So let's see. Oh, here they are. So they're growing. So I think we ended up using a basic animation system to control them growing, and then it'll go like pop, or they'll grow. I don't like that, how that little growth thing happened actually. So let's take a look at our food objects really quick. And it looks like we have growth, and then we have what? Animator. An animator is going to go to a growth object. And then here's the animation down here. So this animation itself, let's hit play and see what happens. So bink. So it goes up to there, and it doesn't do anything interesting. So the real question becomes, there's pop. So let's hit pop. Oh, pop isn't applied to a game object. So there's growth, there's animation controller, there's an animation clip. And I think when we hit play here, let's see, let's go to jump to state. So it'll grow. There it is growing, and it's non-linear, if I remember correct. So it'll pop up, grow, and then go to pop. But for some reason, the pop animation is incredibly slow. And I think that's because of how I coded this darn thing. Yeah, it is very slow. So let's jump to the script for this. And I think I did this partly in code and partly not in code. So let's jump to, let's see, animation, animation control. Let's go to growth. We're going to have to start documenting this stuff too, because I don't remember half of what I'm doing anymore. Let's see. Okay, so growth, current growth, growth time, growth rate. So the amount of time it takes for an object to grow is right there. That is going to be an adjustable field based upon power-ups you get in the game. So things will be able to go faster, but it's going to be a slow accumulation. So we have finished grow, grow, and start. Start determines the growth rate. sets up the audio components, sets up the animator. Update, if not finished growing, it'll grow. We don't need Visual Studio updates right now. So let's move this. Go away, Unity. Finished growing, animator.speed, set the speed back to 1. Finished growing equals true, audio source.play. Here we go. The current growth. Now there should be a rate of time that gets set up. Yeah, Trello's okay. There's actually a number of different things that I'm working with right now. What is it called? So at work, what is it called? I just started using it. So hold on. I'm trying to find the link to it. Notion, actually, is what I should be working with. And I should probably set this up for myself. So let's go ahead and do that really quick and start to give myself some kind of project tracking. You do not have access. I don't want access to his board. I want my own personal use, please. Tell us about yourself. I'm a person. So what am I? Other. What is your role? I'm in charge. What do you want Notion for? Project management. There we go. Continue. So I'm going to give this a shot because I'm supposed to be working with it at work as well on some projects. So let's go ahead and, yeah, we'll keep that over here for right now. But importantly is I need actual documentation on how these different scripts are working because I can never remember what I was doing. So finished growing animator.speed 1.0. This is going to set the animation speed. We don't need a hotkey to play the game. We need to get the farm working. So let's come over here. And there should also be plots of land. So there's a plane, directional object, game object, then the cabbage. Food and food are those types with a growth modifier on top of it. So we have a farm class as well, which I hadn't started filling in yet. We have a plot class. We have a plant class. Okay, let's do a few things. Let's go back to growth. Let's see, is that a public field? No, it's not. So let's go ahead and I believe I was setting the speed for this someplace. So if we come over here, entry growth, we have a multiplier and we set its speed. Oh, don't worry. I got that. So that's what this is. At least that was part of it. What I was actually using was Lucidchart for some of this as well to start documenting some UML how things were working. So let's see. Let's log in. Link your Google account. I already have a Google account. Come on, link. Here we go. So lots of projects. So feed the elderworm. So here we go. I was starting to come up with how I wanted this to work. So this is the progression of the game itself and the different screen or the different states we'd be going through. So let's just call this game states. And then going to page 2 now, what I want to do is figure out how food is going to work. So actually, let's delete that. And I don't need like a crazy way of documenting this. We don't need to go through every variable. We'll at least do class. Although I kind of want a way of doing this so I can link things together and show their hierarchical state. Let's see, growth and food. So the question then becomes, what is growth for and what is food for? So food has a collider. Oops. Rigid body. Food item does not have a rigid body, and it looks like all it's doing is detecting a collision, and so this class itself is incredibly simplistic and might need to be gutted at some point. We have it going through the different states, but I'm wondering if the states are wonky. So let's go over here and farm. So we started talking about what that is. The area where you primarily create resources to feed your god. Things grow randomly in the farm at first, and there are random percentages that certain things will grow. Plots are where objects grow. So let's do this. Normal text, let's make that a header size 2. Plots are where objects grow. These are spawn points for food resources. They grow until they're ready to harvest, and the player can harvest them manually. There will be a skill tree bonus that allows them to be harvested without direct tapping. Skill tree will allow you to choose your farm. The farm is where you plant and sacrifice things to feed your god. You can grow them or modify. Okay. So plots are where things grow. So if we come over here, we have farm and plot. A plot is currently an empty class, so I never got to the point that I actually figured out how this was going to work. So what controls the placement of plots? That's the question. So let's go over here, and so we have a farm. So the farm is going to dictate where things are. So let's have class farm, and we're going to have a class called plot. And a plot is going to dictate where objects go. So let's see, plot. So a plot is going to be how's a plot different than a transform then? That's the question. And do we need anything? So what's the functionality? We're going to need the farm to do what? It's going to have to decide how everything works, right? So it's going to have a list of plots, or an array of plots, whatever. Right? So I'm going to do that, and it is then going to randomly generate food based on generate food. Let's just do that for right now. So it's going to have, let's create a new, do I have a farm already? Scenes, we do have this. Okay, let's go to create an empty game object, call this farm, and let's add the farm script to it. We do not, let's see, farm, and put a farm here. Okay, so the farm is going to have a series of plots attached to it, right? So let's just do plot list, or let's just do a plot array for right now, plots. We'll figure out a list later. Hola. Let's see. So farm goes here. We're going to have plots. So how are we going to handle this? We're going to constantly need to know the state of things. So the question is, do we want to have a reference to each one? Do we want to have like a currently active series of plots, and then it goes through and updates each plot, or should plots update on their own? I do not know the right answer yet. So a plot here is going to instantiate. Do I even need the class plot? It almost feels like all I'm going to end up having are a series of transforms that are going to be stored. So for right now, let's keep things simple. If we don't need the class, let's get rid of it. So we'll do transform plots. Okay, and we're just going to do this as a list for right now. So we're going to hold all of those. Let's do a serialize field on this as well. And let's come back over here, let this update. So I need to figure out where the plots are going to be placed as well. So how do I want to do that? Well, let's just create an empty sub-object and just call these plots. And then under each plot, let's create empty, and then let's do plot 1 and start placing these however and wherever we want them to be. So let's just randomly do that a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll do that. And I hate how Unity names things. Plot 2. We should maybe do this auto. I don't know. Yes, it will be an array of transforms. I wasn't sure if I needed additional functionality, but for right now we're not going to do that. I can just get the child objects of this object so long as I keep the names good. So we'll grab this one, we'll move it, I don't know, there, and there. There's 4, and we'll grab these other ones, move them over, oops, somewhere like that, and then just grab each one after that. Move it down. You know what, let's make this easy to visualize and give them an icon. How about we do that? Now, how come, let's see. Oh, they're very difficult to see. Okay, let's put these up and get out of isometric mode for a second. There we go. Now we can kind of see what's going on. We can go back. All right, so let's grab you, and you, and just place these. There we are, and there we are. Whoops. Put that one there. Ordering honestly doesn't matter. Okay, so now we've got all of our different plots. So let's do what? This dot transform dot let's see. There will not. How about find? Is it find? And then we'll just find plots. Transform plots is going to be equal to this, capital T, and then plots dot get children. Do I want anything else? Okay, so we're going to let's come up with the random generation part. So protected get random plot, and we will get what? Protected transform. This is going to return, so random dot I don't need floats. Let's do system.random dot system.random random dot next. So let's do minimum max value. Oh, good for you with project management. That's the hardest part of most projects. Honestly, I wouldn't mind doing some project management, but it's kind of boring. So I'm going to work instead, and hopefully everything will come together. I do too much project management at work. All right, so we're going to do random.next. This is going to be a value of, let's see, what do we want? The maximum value is going to be plots.length, or count in this case. So we'll do that. So int value is going to be equal to that. And now we're going to grab one of them. Get random plot is one thing. So maybe we want protected. This will give you any plot. Get random available plot. So this is only going to return a plot that actually we have access to. So the question is, I don't know how many plots we're going to end up with on it. I don't think we're going to have a lot. So we can either get a random value and see, but we could get stuck in a lot of checks. So instead, we might just want to iterate over each plot, find ones that are available, and keep them stored. Does it really matter? There's going to be so few, it doesn't matter. Ooh, nice vacation. I'm supposed to be starting my vacation today. My primary job is I'm a director of a virtual reality and artificial intelligence laboratory. So, but I'm too high up, so I don't get to code as much as I like. So I'm getting rusty too, is what I've noticed. Let's see. So get random available plot. I don't want to just pull random ones. I almost want to keep a list of all plots and whether or not they are or not available. We could just randomly go through the list. How about we just start with just get next available plot. So let's do for int I is equal to 0. I is less than. Do I need to do this? Can I use a for each loop? Probably, right? For each. What? Transform in. Actually, in this case, I only need to do plots in, what is it, plots, because I believe you can iterate over transforms this way in Unity. One second. I'm supposed to be on vacation, but I'm getting a question on delivering a VR product today. Yeah, I just find that I get too busy with other things, and they want me to do proposal writing and grant writing and a million other things instead of this kind of stuff. For transform in plots, the time's too valuable to code is the way I see it. For each transform, transform, and plots, if how am I going to, I need to know whether or not the plot is full, which is why I originally had a class for plots to store this information, because a food item will be stored at that location. So I needed an association between these two. So for each plot, we could also within farm right now, instead of having a separate plot class, just hold the object that is at that plot. So we could just do a list food, food. And this is going to need to be the same size as plots. So let's do, what am I doing? List food. No, what am I? Jesus Christ, I'm really, food is going to be equal to new list type food, and we're going to do, okay, that's going to create our list, and then we want this to be equal to the same size as that one. So food dot, so for int I, Jesus Christ, int I equals 0, I is less than, I'm really rusty, dot count, I plus plus, not food, we want plots. Good point. This is not what I want. I want to not do this. This is not how I want to handle this. We want to do plots is going to be equal to new list of type transform. Right, and then this is the plot itself that we're getting. I just want to get the stupid list of all of these. Set parent, find child, get children is what I would really like. Thought I had a class I already wrote that does this. Let me find scripts. Do I not have my utility class in here where I wrote all this stuff already? Nah, doesn't look like I do. All right, that's fine. Let's just let's go to the documentation. Unity docs. There we go. And get children. Scripting. Transform. Unity editor. Right, that's a for each iterator. I don't want that. Child count. Parent. All right, I mean, I guess we could iterate over each one. That's fine. Okay, so for each, no, yeah, I can do that. I can do that right here. That's what I was doing here. So let's grab the for each loop. Plots. We want to append this, right? So we want to do, you know, honestly, I hate for each loops. I'd much rather just do it as a standard one. For int I is equal to 0, I is less than plots dot count, I plus plus. All right, and we need a semicolon at this time. We don't need this. Right. Okay, so we want to grab this. Let's do transform plot holder. That sounds horrible, plot holder. We'll do this here. we don't want that. We want to do dot get child count. And then let's see. Use transfer.child count, okay. Okay, so now we're going to iterate over each one. We're going to do plot holder dot, let's see, we're going to do plots dot add. What are we going to add? We are going to add to that plot holder dot get child at index I. Do you worry about if your code has vulnerabilities? I will as we move forward, yes. In this one, not as much. In other ones, yes. That's an interesting question. It depends on what I'm developing for. In this case, I'm not really caring because I'm just coding kind of stream of thought. So I'm just trying to get stuff down to make progress. I'm caring less about the overall big picture because I don't really know what I'm making yet, which sounds horrible, but that's kind of how I work when it comes to games and creating stuff like that. And it's for work. There's a whole design process. There's a whole bunch of stuff that has to happen. But this is where I like to break from that mold and do some more interesting things. So plots.add, we're going to grab each one of them. Okay, so now I have a list of all plots. Now I need to create for each plots.count. We're just going to do I don't need to do anything yet, do I? Do I want to hold null? Is that how I want to do this? So let's just do, so it's food is equal to this. So let's do food.add, and let's just do a null. What are you particularly worried about? Get next available plot. If I was doing this for something serious, then I would care a little bit more, but honestly, if people find vulnerabilities, so long as it doesn't break the game too much, or I can go back in and patch it up, that's half the fun of most games. Let's see, I need to concentrate. Get next available plot. So we're going to iterate over each one. And if plots dot, and this is where I kind of want the plot, if food dot, I want to access that one. I don't want to, I hate for each loops, honestly. I'm going to do it this way. For int I is equal to 0, I is less than plots dot count I plus plus. So if food, what do we want this? Index I dot does not equal null. Wow, I'm not typing well. If food I does not equal null, then it's available because there isn't a food object there. Now technically, I really should make that plots class and have this a little bit more detailed, but for right now this would be good enough. So food I is equal to null, return plots I. So we're going to return a reference to that particular one. Plots is still a transform, right? So we're going to get that. So get next available plot. Not all code values return a path, correct? Yes, because you could technically return null. And if we get there, then what happens? Well, we have no available plots. And in this case we do, so great. Yeah, try not to let people get too in you. Are you a nester? It depends what I'm nesting. Some things I will not. I do not go terribly deep inside of a nest. I will break it out eventually into something else. So this is probably as deep as you'll get me to go. But I like to break things up so you don't get, unless of course it's just, if it gets to the point where you're trying to figure out too many names for your function and it becomes too difficult to write it, then I don't care if the code's embedded a little bit. It's about making it easier to understand. It's about making it easier for future George, when he gets to this code, to know what the hell this function was actually supposed to be doing. So, I mean, in reality, I should be doing, a summary and giving myself some information on this. So, returns the next plot that has no food currently growing at its location. Okay, so next available plot. So this is going to do that. Now the next thing I also need though is that's going to return an available plot, but it's not going to, I need to get a random food object. And this is where we wonder if I should make a generator or if I should do something else. I'm not exactly sure how I want to handle it yet. So I'm going to do it the dumb way, and we're going to let the farm class do most of it. And then as the functionality gets deeper, I will tear that out and put it in its own class at a future date. Because I'd rather get work done than sit here and try to plan this out for hours. So we're going to do protected get, let's see, food, get random food. And this later should be some kind of a complicated algorithm, complex algorithm that uses probability distributions to determine the likelihood that you will get one food item over another at some point. Right now, we're not going to do it that way. So we also are going to need a list of all types of food that are available to us. So if we go over to the food objects over here, we'll see that we have materials. I believe in my prefabs we have foods set up already. So we've got cabbage, potato, and a food pellet. Let's see, so the cabbage and the potato currently looks like they're working properly, so we can use the two of those. So those are the only ones we're going to be generating right now. So let's just do, so we have a list of food, which is not the best way to do this. I don't like this name because it's going to get confusing with the other ones we have going on too. So, so let's call this, I like current usually to describe what's going on. So we're going to do current food is right there. If current food is equal to null, we're going to do that to get random food. So next up is we're going to do a list of food. So let's do a serialized field. And let's do a list of food and then types of food. So right now this is going to need its own system in the future that has all the types of food and then knows what types of food. So let's give me a note. Replace this later with a generator that tracks all available types of food. And returns to you the correct type of food based on your own choices. So that's going to be a much more complicated thing we're going to get at some point in the future. Nothing that I'm doing right now, that's for sure. Right now we're just going to shove this stuff into a list and at least get something working. So, types of food. Let's get random food, in which case we're just going to return one of these random ones. So system.random rand, let's just do equals new system dot. Let's do rand.get next, and then it should be the length of the types of food, right? Types of food. Types of food.count. int I. We're also going to want to do this a little bit differently, but it's fine for right now. So we're going to return. So the question is, does this return an instance? So let's see, complex values probably get one food item. So returns a new instance of a food game object. So we're going to return a instantiate, and what are we instantiating? We're going to instantiate one of the objects that are in the food. So let's find current food. Come to here. We're going to do I, and then object transform parent. We do want the food stored someplace. The question is, do I make that a child of the plot that it's currently on and reset the stuff? When you do get random food, it's just returning a food object. It does not yet have a plot. Therefore, its transform, I'm going to assume, is null for the moment. Let's see, what else do we have as for this function? Just the object transform in world space, position. Let's see, that's all fine too. Now this is going to return an object. I kind of want it to actually return to us the food object that's appended to it. So there we go. Okay, so that's going to return that. I am 100% American. This is very true. There's no doubt I'm from anywhere else. Get random food. Get next available plot. Now I want to, let's see, in update, I'm going to need someone controlling when the next food item becomes available. So that's going to be its own variable, which is the spawn rate. So let's just do a float spawn rate. And let's say a new one happens every 1 second for right now. Let's just say units are seconds. Do it like that, units seconds. Okay, so that's going to be the spawn rate. What we could do is we could do an invoke, which I don't want to do. I like more control over this. So let's do well, you know what? For right now, let's just test what we have and have it invoke something for each one. So let's do, I kind of want this to, instead of returning a transform, to return, that's fine, we'll do it that way. Let's do get available plot. So this we should be able to loop this. Let's just do bool is empty is equal to false. While is empty. Or how about not full? Let's do it that way. While this is still not full, we will continue to call get available next plot, which will return to us the next plot. Okay, that's going to return the next plot that we need. Then we're going to get a random food object. So let's do get random food. Let's do food. Random food is equal to get random food. Now we are going to do next plot dot set. No, we're going to do random food dot set child dot transform dot set parent, and we're going to set that to be the next plot. We're also going to go ahead and reset things. So dot what do we want? Transform is going to be equal to no, not transform. Dot position is going to be equal to vector 3.0, and we're going to do random food dot transform dot rotation is going to be equal to quaternion dot identity. Now I'm starting to remember how to program. This needs to get wrapped up into its own function, honestly. I should pull all of this out to auto do this, and that will be sitting on top of these two functions. So I'm trying to think about what I want to call that. Protected void spawn next food item. And let's just we're going to grab all of this. And that will be responsible for creating the food item and setting it up. And we're going to do that. So what makes this full? We could just done a for loop instead of doing this full crap, right? So we could have just iterated over every single one. We already have the number, which is up here. So we can do either one. Let's just do that. For int I is equal to 0. I is less than plot holder dot child count plus plus. Boop. Boop. Okay, so we'll do that and we get rid of this value here. Let's go into our scene, and I'm going to delete the cabbage and the potato. Now we have our farm script. We do not have types of food, so let's add those. We're going to add the cabbage and the potato, and these are all of our plots. We're going to hit run and watch it not work in the least bit, and that's all fine because we don't care. So let's go to check null. Let's move this over here. The object you want to instantiate is null. Current instantiate food, current food I. Let's come over here. Oh, that's why. Current food should not be being instantiated. It should be types of food. So types of food. Types of food goes right there. We're going to come over here, turn this off, hit run. Oh, wow. Okay, we got some transform issues. Oh, and collider issues probably. This is something that needs to be changed in the game in general. When I first started programming it, I was using colliders in a completely different way. So here we go. There's no animator attached to food cabbage game object, but a script is trying to access it. You probably need an animator to the game object. So, did I not update the prefabs? So this has food and a growth object, but it does not have the animator. So actually, can we go back in time slightly before I trashed everything? Please? Okay, there's food and there's cabbage. Overrides. I'm going to apply these overrides before I lose them. Apply them. Okay, now the child object, or excuse me, the prefab should have everything we want. So we're going to do that. We're going to clear that out so that we don't lose all of our work again. And now we can re-add the two prefabs in here. So potato and cabbage. We'll hit run. And we are going to see what happens. And nothing isn't bad. We've got clones of all the potato objects. They're currently just sitting there in space. Let's zoom around here and see what's going on. So they have positions. I don't know why they have crazy positions. Something tells me that they collided with an object. So let's grab one of these and hit F and see if we can't find it. Oh, there it is. Hello, Mr. Food. Going off into the distance. Let's turn the gizmos off really quick. Did you see it? I did. Okay, let's go back over here and figure out what's going on. So it's got a collider on it. I'm assuming that it's acting like a normal object. So let's go over here and see we have a rigid body. Its positions have been frozen. So the rigid body, it's getting knocked. It's hitting something and flying off into the void. So maybe we need to get rid of that. So we need to kind of depower the food item and turn off a bunch of crap. So we have the collider. that's fine. Update. So when it first gets created, the food object should have just something that kind of makes it static. So let's do that. Let's do collider dot, and then what do we want to do? We want to make it kinematic dot is dot kinem. What did they change in Unity? Let's find it. Let's go to the food object and is trigger. Rigid body. Yeah, is kinematic. That's what I want. Did they change? That's the collider. We don't have the rigid body. RB. So RB dot is kinematic is equal to true. Okay, so now the physics simulation won't take over and cause our objects to fly all over the place. This is going to break the rest of the game because it uses the that system, but we'll have to turn things on and off or put things on layers. Let me see where this object is going. Oh, there they are. Ooh, that's beautiful. That's lovely. Okay, so we're going to do is local. That's the problem. So if we come back to the farm where we did the spawn next food item, we did all of this stuff not in local space. So we're going to do local position and dot local rotation. And now they should be not 0 in world space. This is the noisiest chair ever. Okay, so we has all of our food items, and they are being created, rotated 90 degrees, which is a problem. But the animation system's working. They are just not, they don't have any childs. So what is their set parent is next plot. Next plot is equal to get available, next available plot. So system.random, random, if current food is equal to null. Yeah, I want the one that is equal to null, not equal to null. We're going to do that. I'm glad you can't hear the chair because it sounds like I'm farting all over the place. Okay, so plots now, that one plot has all instances of it, which means the food item is not getting set in the array of foods. So we got to keep track of that. So when we do spawn next food item, not only do we create the food object, but we're going to do current food. And we're going to do, so what I really want is get next available plot to not return the plot. I want it to return the index of the next available plot instead, so I can use that index for everything else. So we are going to do get next available plot and instead just return an integer value. And we are going to return I here. Now we can't return null, in which case we could always return something else, like -1 instead. So we are going to do that. And next available plot, and I is equal to get next available plot. That's going to give us that. Index. I'm going to rename this, refactor this to index, rename, index, apply. Okay, so now that we have that, we can do next plot. We can do plots, index I. Food, that's fine. We're going to do current food. I is going to be equal to the random food that was just created, and hold that. We do not yet have a system for removing the food, which will come later. Okay, so now each one of these has a sub-object, game object, and they are all being created at the correct location. The biggest issue is that they're all rotated improperly. So that could be, so we're using quads for this. And I don't believe they have a rotation to begin with. I think I had to rotate everything 90 degrees because I used Y up instead of Z forward for the game. So that's a little bit of an issue. So I don't know if I should go back and use X and Y and keep everything as Z forward so I don't have to do these rotations, or if I should just add the rotation on top of everything else. If we go back to the original game, so let's go to, because I broke stuff, I know I did by making those changes. So let's go to scenes and the farm. No, insatiable worm. And we'll notice that the whole game was built with it actually being Z forward. So it's actually this one that's built incorrectly. So this entire thing should be rotated 90 degrees. And the camera should come out. So let's fix this, reset this, this, and this, and just bring the camera outwards from that. Okay, and now we're just going to need to go to our farm and go to our plots and reposition all the plots. Let's turn my gizmos back on so I can see everything. And this is where I kind of wish this was like a 3D program where I could easily just grab these and rotate them. I guess technically I could, couldn't I? I could take plots, rotate them, rotate that 90 degrees. Okay, so now we've got all of our plots. And we're going to hit run. And those are, let's pause this. So they're scaling up. The rotation is correct. Did I make these things incorrectly? So let's go back and find out what's going on with that. Let's go to insatiable worm and find our food. So food's in slots. And let's do food spawner top. And see if I'm doing a rotation. No, I don't see one there. Okay. Let's hit run and see what happens. Okay, the food is not instantiating. Oh, there it is. It's coming in. It's just very slow. Okay, but they're rotated correctly. So what if we grab one of these food objects? You'll see that they're all zeroed out as well. So it's ultimately the parent that's causing the problem. So let's get rid of the parent. So we're going to come here, go to plots, grab all of these, move them out so they retain their space. We're going to go to plots, reset that one, and then we're going to put them all back under there. And this way, they remember their stuff, and we get rid of that negative 90-degree rotation that is screwing us over. Now if we hit run, uh-oh, I got a phone call. Hold on, I will be right back.